Welcome to the Friendlyjordies Podcast. How's everyone doing?
Hello. Good.
Hey, before we start the pod, let's start with something that I think we've got to remember. A titan of the labor movement,
Kim Beazley.
Simon Crean, recently passed away in Germany. I don't know why he was in Germany, but look, I'm going to be honest. I don't know a lot about the man, obviously.
That's why.
He was before my time in Australia.
I don't know what that means, but yeah.
It's a socialist country, so.
Stop laughing, he's dead.
I'm not laughing.
Says the guy that was like, okay, there's 6 memes of the submarine. Look, holy shit, I got
none of the main part. That was separate. That's
this
separate.
commie, as soon as someone doesn't earn money, he's like, don't laugh.
Shut up. Okay, what do you guys remember about him? Do you want to spend like just 2 minutes?
I don't remember anything about him aside from I've seen his face. I'm like, oh, I remember him when I was a kid.
I thought you were a big fan of him.
I remember his face from being a kid.
I thought there was more of him and you thought, he looks sensible.
I liked all of Labour when I was a kid. I liked Beazley, all of them, that whole elk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially Latham.
Do you have anything to say about him, Georgie?
Hey, he pulled him close in that handshake.
I'll tell you what, I remember that was my, as the kids on Reddit would say, political awakening. I think it was that he was just getting so drubbed in the polls, and I was thinking, why does everyone hate this guy so much? He seems like a really nice, down-to-earth dude.
Yeah, he did.
And so I just started looking into it, and I got so passionate about it that my year assessment speech for English, where they said, write something that you're passionate about. And my speech was entitled, and I remember lifting a shirt up, and I gave it this whole thing about Simon Crean's life and why he was awesome. And then at the end, I said, and that, ladies and gentlemen, is why I am keen on Crean.
Was this in high
school?
school?
And I'm still making merch today that's pro-Labour.
Unbelievable.
Future Prime Minister Crean. He never even led an election, did he?
Nah, never got there.
What happened to him? Why did he...
Was this so unpopular?
Why?
Did you do that in high school?
Absolutely
Was that in high school?
I don't know.
No. Did you do the speech in high school?
Yeah.
Good on you. I love the good stuff, but I sincerely hope you were thoroughly bullied. You're not supposed to have interests in that kind of thing in high school.
You know what was really weird?
You weren't.
No, everyone was
fucking
like,
performing
great
arts.
speech, man.
Fucking performing arts schools. God damn our school. If I was there, I would have paid you out. Just know that.
I think you were there and you were sitting there thinking, I must look into this, man. And then as usual in classic Mislav style, you fast forward 15 years later. Who's that guy?
Fair. I'm there going, bravo.
Bravo, old man.
All right, well...
But look, I really think that he was a great contribution to the Labor Party. He came from an old Labor Party stock family. Like his dad was a legend in the Labor movement, Frank Crean. And he was of that tradition of Labor people, which is when they win elections, which is really strange that he just didn't resonate with them. I think it was just because it was Howard and he was just the indefeatable titan. But he came from that tradition of, yeah, I guess like, rich people have to make money, that's fine, but you also have to pay your workers. He was really one of those down the line, this is how you win elections kinds of guys. I don't know, for some reason people didn't like his personality.
They keep referring to him as a unionist.
Yeah, they always do
massively. Yeah.
Was he the
leader? He was a very
classic
leader? Labor man.
Was he the leader of the opposition?
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Was for like 2 years, I think, 2003.
He's got a real backbencher face, though.
Yeah, that's what I think too. He just didn't have that
I thought,
streak to him, but
he was great. I thought he was nice.
Like, he was a really kind, decent guy.
Yeah, I agree.
This is how they describe it. Look, I mean, a defiant opposition for invasion of Iraq. He might not have been able to stand up to the prime ministers of the time, but he did stand up to the most powerful man, George Bush.
Oh, well, that explains why he never made it to an election. That's explained everything, didn't it?
The one thing that...
All these dickheads out there just being like, why don't you just oppose the US? I guess that's the answer.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, well, look, rest in peace,
How
Simon
did he die?
Crean. Old age, man.
Oh, respect.
Respect. All right, dude, let's talk about one of the most requested things that I've been getting, the Russian mutiny.
Oh, yeah, I heard about that.
Are you keen on that?
Yeah,
I'm never keen on anything Russia, but go ahead.
Come on, this is interesting.
Right.
Well, so I don't know how much of you guys have
and by
ended
sub,
up...
I mean Subway.
What's your favorite? Shoot.
I don't know.
Stop dodging the questions, Alan.
First of all, Wagner, the group, is named after Wagner, the composer.
Yeah, I was
Did
gonna
you know
say.
that?
Really? I thought that it was named after the evil company in Alien.
Oh,
That was their second reasoning.
yeah.
No,
Well, it should have been number one.
So Wagner, so this guy, Prigozhin, he he's from St. Petersburg. I'm just going to give you a little brief historical understanding of where Wagner Group comes from, and then, it'll sort of make sense as to what was happening and why it was happening a little bit, because no one really knows exactly what's happening. But anyways, so Prigozhin was a hot dog salesman in St. Petersburg. And it's a real rags to riches kind of
Now we're
story.
talking.
Same place that Putin comes from. So we don't know exactly how it happened, but he went on from being a hot dog salesman to having a chain of restaurants, which is why he's often referred to as, or used to be referred to as, Putin's cook, because he became friends with Putin at some point, and because he had all of those restaurants, Putin would eat out with him and stuff, so he got known as Putin's cook. Anyway, so he was doing that, but he really had bigger ambitions. And at some point, he secretly invested in this mercenary group called Wagner, but he wasn't the face of it for the longest time. This Wagner group is technically not even a mercenary because Russian law doesn't really allow mercenaries, so it's in this weird gray area where this mercenary sort of existed, and they mostly have fought wars in Africa. So a lot of these African conflicts, like Central Republic of Africa, I think even Congo, mercenary groups Wagner Group usually goes in and help the governments at the time quell rebellions and things like that.
I didn't know mercenaries still existed.
That's
No,
cool.
they exist. The biggest ones are in the U.S.
What?
Yeah, have you heard of Blackwater? I think they've renamed it to something.
Wait,
U.S. has multiple massive mercenaries.
that's crazy.
Yeah, but they always fight for the US, yeah?
They always fight for the U.S. Technically, the Russians, I mean, they're a business
Is that like
group.
a
They can be
vigilante?
hired. They don't
But
always
these guys
fight for
seem
the
like
US.
they just hire for whoever gives them the biggest sack of gold.
The U.S. ones also do it, pending that the U.S. government allows them to do it, and because they have
That's a little
such
different.
insane say in the government and military operation, that the U.S. will also do it. For example, they'll fight covertly or non-covertly, openly, for the Saudis to crush the Yemeni rebellion. So it's not just a Russian thing. I want to also make that clear.
Well, see, this is something that I just asked Mislav the other day, and he was of the opinion that it's not. But I was saying that surely being a soldier is kind of like being Raul in soccer. There's some star players. And if you're a star player, then obviously you get hired by one of these Manchester United soldier teams.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you do. I mean,
So there is those A-team soldiers of some muscly black guy with a shaved head and a stogie in his mouth with a huge gun, just yelling in an African jungle, "Get some!"
I think
That guy exists.
Yeah, that guy exists, and often he is a prisoner because Wagner uses a
Shit.
lot of inmates. So they say, like, if you
That's
fight,
that's so sci-fi.
yeah,
that's
if-
like
That's something that every sci-fi movie always has some prison planet where
Yeah.
the greatest of those, they put them in elite forces.
it's that movie. What's that fucking movie with all the I don't know what it's called. It's like
Hey, you're right, Ali. This
But,
is amazing.
like, the
This isn't
bird-
the usual, like, there's some good points on either side.
What-
This is kind of just like, you want to know something cool?
like you know that like Marvel movie. It's like 12. They pull them out of prison. They're like, one's a shark. You know that movie? And it's like the chick, the Joker's girlfriend, Will
yeah,
Smith.
Suicide Squad.
Yeah, that's real. Case closed.
I mean,
I think we can move on, really.
So they became like really notable during the Syrian civil war.
One more question. Are they good?
Well, yes. Which
Not as
you'll
in,
find out.
are they good people? Are they good at fighting?
I know exactly.
Yeah. Well, the pause made
Yeah,
me
these-
think that you were going, well, on the balance.
This like inmate army are like moral compass for the rest of the world. No, I'm not saying that.
Inmate
They became really notorious during the Syrian civil war because when Russia decided to help Assad, and this was the time. Look, if you go back a little bit when the Syrian civil war was happening, America was going through this period where everyone was like, America's like not good anymore militarily. They had already lost Iraq, or not lost Iraq. They had to like leave Iraq. Then they were getting beaten up in Afghanistan, and meanwhile they were still not sure how to really get rid of Assad, because the groups that were fighting Assad were ISIS. So they were like, oh, we don't want to support you. We want to support this one Free Syrian Army, which was secular and kind of worked with America. However, they weren't powerful. On the other hand, Russia was kicking ass in Syria, and most of the kicking ass was actually being done by this Wagner group. This is where their reputation and their prominence,
Dude, Predator. It's
keeps
real.
going up.
That's crazy. And you're like
If you can find them and you can afford them, maybe you can hire Wagner.
That's amazing. That's crazy.
That's how they pitch it. They're looking. And here's the other thing.
Can you imagine if you like got a secret like classified file of like the members, and then like one of them you just find out it's your dad? It's like, that's where he's been the whole fucking...
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise
He's
me.
not in Dubbo. He's in fucking Syria. He's in Syria. It's like,
I keep telling you, I'm a builder.
why does your back hurt so much? Building.
This is the other
There's
thing.
one star player. They call him Terry the Hat.
He's known by killing them with his hat, like that little, like Odd Job from fucking James Bond.
The sack of gold reference that you made is actually truer than you think. So when they fight with these African countries, a lot of times they say like, look, we don't know if you're going to be able to pay us properly. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to give us this amount of money, which isn't our charge. However, you're also going to give us exclusive rights to mine gold and silver in your countries.
That's why it comes in handy that they're prisoners. And then you get prison labor as well.
Exactly.
Right.
So this
Do they actually mine too?
Yeah, they mine, but with other mining
mine
companies,
and
but they
file.
get
Oh my
exclusive possession, and because they're
God.
fighting, they're unlike you can't. Usually, what happens is when you get a
Jesus.
mining contract in some country, there's no stability, particularly in like African countries or countries where there's political instability, because some other group will take over and they'd be like, you didn't sign this with us, and blah blah. It'll get interrupted. But with the Wagner group, because they're the mercenaries fighting wars for the rulers, they have a lot of leeway in saying like, no, we're keeping this gold, and the governments are usually like, okay, no problem.
Wow.
Just make sure that these guys don't kill us.
That must be the most profitable corporation on earth. A private military industrial complex / mining company.
Yeah.
And in their spare time, they do some blackjack.
Probably. Let's be honest. Prostitution, drugs.
Would you like to hold?
Yeah.
That's incredible.
It's just that the irony is like the actual ABN, it goes under like Play School Ltd. You know?
Yeah. They own a bit of Disney, don't they?
I don't know, but they own a lot of things. Like, there's a lot of. In fact, that's actually one of the reasons for this entire mutiny. The one-day mutiny that happened. So Wagner is obviously at this point, after the Syrian civil war and things, Putin has looked at them and was like, these guys are pretty good. Like these, I would use them.
Wait a
all
sec.
the time.
So it was a Russian guy who paid them to do it?
Russian guy who paid them to do the Syrian civil war.
No. Yeah, but talk about Russia.
Yeah, it's a Russian mercenary group. All of the people in it are Russians.
But I thought it was against Russians.
No. Okay, so no, it's a pro-Russian. It's kind of like Blackwater of Russia. You guys don't know Blackwater. It's like it's Russian. It's being used by the Russian government for these sort of offshore wars all the time.
Yes, but unlike Blackwater, it doesn't really need the blessing of the Russian government. It can just do whatever
No,
it
it
wants.
does. It does.
It does. Okay.
Well, that's kind of why there's a mutiny,
So-
anyways, because sometimes you get like really powerful. So
What's the deal with the... I'm confused.
yeah.
There's a war now, Jack? No, but what? But who's winning the... What's the mutiny? I don't understand.
Okay, if you talk about the Ukraine war, apparently, according to all accounts, it's a stalemate at this point. However, so the Wagner group, so they, once the Ukraine invasion happened, right? Putin wanted to use Wagner, but not only did they want to use Wagner, a lot of times when they made those initial advances and they met the first resistance, the Russian military was actually getting a hammering. However, this Wagner group, in one I can't remember, I think it's South Russia. It's near the Donbass area, but somewhere around southeast of it, there's a city where the Wagner group and Prigozhin particularly, they were able to conquer that area. And so all of a sudden their public profile went sky high, right? Because on the one hand, the Russian military, the official Russian military, is getting this fierce fight back, whereas the Wagner group is able to do it. So all of a sudden, even for Putin, it was like, these guys are doing a great job, so they're going to be an integral part of the Ukraine.
Do they know
invasion.
why? Do they
Why
know
were
why
they
the
doing
Russians
it?
are getting hammered and Wagner wasn't?
They're talking about there's
It's the
theories.
predator
I don't
people.
exactly know what the
They're
reason
in the
is.
jungle and shit. And they're just smoking cigars. They're just cooler.
So they are
But a
much
simplified
more
chain of
elite
command.
soldiers. That,
Yeah.
Oh,
A
okay.
more simplified chain of command, not
Simplified chain of
necessarily.
And
Yeah.
also, come on, they could,
And they're pros.
and they can overlook like,
That's-
rules of war.
Yeah, well, I mean, you could argue that Russia's kind of overlooking
That's
it
true
too
too.
a little bit.
But even more so.
But
even more
everyone
so.
does overlook, and they can definitely do more so, because there's some horror stories when they do, when they're in Africa of like, detaining people, executing people, like they really don't care as much. So
But
there's
with the mutiny, was it that like I thought the mutiny was that someone in Russia, the Russian organization, was fighting against Russia.
Yeah, so this Wagner group, who is a mercenary group based in Russia and is being used by Russians in the Ukraine war, a few days ago, their leader Prigozhin said, "I'm gonna commit a mutiny and I'm gonna head towards Moscow and I'm going to take over the Russian government." However, he didn't say that.
The hot dog guy.
The hot dog guy. He didn't say that particularly. He didn't go
Man,
against
how much more
Putin.
boss is the Russian version of the pillow guy in the US?
What's the pillow guy?
You know how that's always just like the weird eccentric billionaire that everyone's always like, that guy.
All right,
That
that's
guy.
crazy. So he didn't say that.
Damn,
though. Like,
doing
he
what
didn't-
the Germans
He said he
couldn't.
was going to overthrow the
Doing
regime.
what Blitzkrieg couldn't. Far out. Yeah, sorry.
let the man speak.
Sorry.
He said that he was going to overthrow the regime, but he didn't directly go against Putin. Because, again, this is my understanding of what was happening behind the scenes. So what's been happening is that, first of all, Prigozhin has, his analysis would be that the Russian military is not as good as the Wagner group. That's what he thinks at the what he thought. Secondly, based on some of the immediate, victories that Wagner got in comparison to the Russian military, he also was essentially acting as a military general for the government while being a private citizen. And he was probably not getting that kind of value that the military head generals in the Russian military were getting. And so he had a beef with the military leadership of Russia. And so he was essentially, obviously, we know that he's a very ambitious man who has political aspirations. So he obviously wanted Putin to favor him over the mainstream Russian military. And this issue has been going on for a long time. This was supplemented by the fact that a lot of the Wagner soldiers were getting killed, right? And he was in this position where he had to somehow negotiate a better deal for Wagner Group with Putin while not getting it because the Ukraine war was being full-fledged. So at some point, his animosity with them got to a point where his calculus was that maybe I can actually threaten everyone and get these concessions. And so he said that there's going to be a mutiny and I'm going to march towards Moscow. This was I'm guessing an intimidation tactic, because very quickly, within a day, he changed his mind as well. So I think what he thought was, the one thing that we know from this is that at least some people in Russia think that Putin is weak. But the fact that this all changed around so quickly tells you that he's not as weak as people think he is.
Surely they're just gonna kill him though.
Well, yes. So he's given him an amnesty to go and live in where's Lukashenko from? Belarus. To go in Belarus and give amnesty. However, this is something that Putin is not gonna just forgive. However, the fact that Putin hasn't done anything immediately tells you that maybe the Wagner's analysis of Putin being weak isn't completely wrong either. Because, so eventually he's going to get into trouble. Depends on how this war, eventually goes on. Once Putin gets some kind of power again, he's not going to forgive this. And Prigozhin obviously knows that too. But he's still willing to take the risk.
Isn't that incredible? Because anytime you ever read about medieval history, it is just a long history of some king hiring a mercenary force and then the mercenary force turning on the king that hired them.
Yes. That's a really good, which is typical, right? So you
Wow.
know that
Typical.
this happens often.
Yeah.
But the reason why it doesn't happen in a country like the US, right, is that the analysis of the mercenary group is that we aren't strong enough to take the entire state. That's why they're not doing it. And even in those Middle Ages times when mercenary groups took control, they understood that the state was really weak.
Yeah.
That's why they did it.
Yeah.
And so even in this situation where there's a mutiny, it tells you that the state of Russia isn't as strong as it was pre-invasion of Ukraine. But before
How
everyone
many
in
people
the West,
are there in Wagner? How many soldiers do they have?
so they claim 35,000. Conservative estimates say
Fuck.
25,000.
Holy shit! I thought it was like
At least.
10. I thought it was 10 guns from Predator.
So did I.
Holy shit!
25,000.
25. Fuck. That's like.
That's a lot of
Jeez,
people.
that's a lot of people.
That's the amount of people that will scare you if they say that they're marching towards the capital.
Yeah.
Which is why the Russian Federation was pissing their pants when it happened.
That's like 2.5 legions.
Yeah.
That's a dream audience for a band, hypothetical band.
Yeah.
God, can you imagine the music they're into?
Pantera.
Lord of thy art is murder.
So it's
Shout out, Sean.
essentially
So I bet you he says that at some interview as well, being like, I love those guys.
my analysis is that the rebellion of Wagner had little to do with the war in Ukraine, because like a lot of people in the West, they believe what they want to believe, right? So immediately when this happened, they're like, okay, there's one general who, by the way, looks like a monster.
Does he?
Somehow, yeah, he looks pretty insane. Who somehow is sympathetic to the Ukrainian cause, so he's doing this rebellion. It's like, that I know is false.
Right.
What I don't know exactly what's the case, but my guess
There's
is
no way that man is sympathetic to anyone.
exactly.
Except
He
for
only
himself.
cares about himself,
Yeah.
and that's actually why he probably would have done it. So I think he wanted a bigger share of power in the Russian military, which Putin wasn't willing to give him. And he felt that he is strong enough and the Russian state is weak enough that he can sort of bully them into doing it. But in 24 hours, him also realizing that that's probably not going to happen. So this is where we are. So we know that the Russian state is weak, but we also know that it's not weak enough to collapse.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
this is, again, like I was reading, this is some a very anti-Russia guy. This is Peter Zehan, actually. He was saying this. He was saying that if you look at all Russian wars, the one thing that they are not fazed by is the number of soldiers that get killed in the battles. So even during World War II, every time thousands of Russian soldiers get killed. And that is not enough for them to change their view on the war. And in fact, he goes on to say that usually the Russians get hammered for the first 3 years and then eventually achieve their objectives.
Right.
This is from a guy
Just
who's
classic war of attrition.
anti-Russia, yeah. So we don't know exactly how the Ukraine war is going to go, but we do know that Putin is definitely facing some or at least he believes some of his adversaries think that he's weak right now.
As in, there's division amongst the generals.
Well, clearly, because Wagner is also a military unit that is fighting and whose leader was
But
fighting
other than
against him.
them, ones that are official state military
It's impossible to know for us, but I'm guessing yes. I'm guessing there's definitely
because that would
divisions
mean that would be why he's weak.
Yeah,
Because the military
exactly.
isn't going to back Putin, right?
Yeah.
Because if the military did back Putin,
or at least factions of the military won't back Putin. You must also forget that this guy, Wagner, he is an oligarch. So he comes from a group of billionaires in Russia who are really suffering from these sanctions.
Right.
So if you...
Wow, imagine if he's the next Russian president. The monster.
What do you mean the monster?
Just some monstrous guy takes over.
Oh,
from
that
Putin.
guy?
It's just like, this is a new Russia, a new era.
That would be insane. I am the only one brave
They just
enough
keep
to
getting
bring
tougher. It started with like this fat, pudgy alcoholic Yeltsin. And it goes to like a man that wrestles bears in his spare time.
Yeah.
And then it goes to a guy that, just professionally goes in fucks up countries.
He's just like, I'm the one, like I'm the only one brave enough to bring back the USSR. They're back, baby. They're back.
Well, he's
Yeah.
all going to bring the USSR.
There's no way that guy.
was-
I don't think that guy believes in communism.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, and the last point about this is, again, what we now know is the way this mutiny happened, without actually causing significant damage to the Russians, because it sort of got canceled very quickly. This has worked out in Putin's favor, because what he's now done, first of all, a lot of those voices in Russia that were against the Ukraine war, as soon as this mutiny happened, were like, now the war has come home, and so now it's serious. And a lot of people that were anti-Putin are actually moving towards Putin, because they're like, look, whatever the outcome is, we don't want this kind of mutiny in Russia.
Yes.
So, like, we'll have to stop that. And if for that, we have to support Putin, we're more than willing to do that. So he's actually consolidated some power as a consequence of this mutiny. The second thing that he's done is the liberal voices that in Russia, that all of a sudden, as soon as this order happened, were for Prigozhin. And they were like, no, we've got to support Prigozhin now because he's going to defeat Putin. Those guys are going to get screwed really bad in Russia now.
Yep.
Because Putin now has an excuse
Yes.
to go after them even further, because they're like, they literally were advocating for mutiny, which, once happens is fine, but if it gets successful is the worst crime you can ever do.
Yes.
It's usually how statecraft works.
Yes.
So I think Putin is actually, he didn't want this to happen, but he couldn't have asked for a better way of how this ended up happening too.
Right.
Because there was literally zero damage, but he gets the benefits of, the aftermath of it.
Unbelievable.
It's pretty crazy. Anyways, that was my take.
So are they
I
like?
gotta go to the toilet, but that was.
Are they?
Oh, right.
Are they still? So what's that organization doing now? They're just fighting in Ukraine.
Actually, yeah,
again?
that's a good one, because Prigozhin, they've been told to go
back.
Putin can't afford. That's actually why he's allowed Prigozhin to head to Belarus, because Putin really can't afford this entire 35,000, whatever you want to believe, 35,000 people not to be fighting in Ukraine, because he desperately needs people to fight in Ukraine. In fact, he's trying to get more people, let alone lose 35,000 people.
Yeah.
So part of the reason why he's given amnesty to someone who declared mutiny is that he really wants those soldiers back on the field. And so they've gone back.
So they're back.
Yeah. So again, we don't know exactly what's happening, but yes, they've apparently gone back to their base camps, and their leader who did all of this has moved to Belarus, where he has been pardoned.
Where's Belarus?
Belarus is next to Russia and
is it in
north of Ukraine, and
So it's in Russia though.
no, it's a different country, but
Oh,
it
it's
is
its own
pro-Russia
fuck,
country.
Right.
yeah.
Okay.
It's one of the only countries that are
surprised-
fully with Putin on the invasion.
I'm surprised. Oh really? Yeah. I'm surprised that Putin wouldn't just like execute that guy.
Because he wants those 25,000 fighters to be fighting in Ukraine.
But does that? Yeah, but
I'll tell you.
But the hot dog guy doesn't own the whole company. The mercenary company.
No, he does. He doesn't own the whole company, but he owns a significant share of this company.
So he needs him.
And the soldiers, again, this is some stuff that it's hard for us to guess exactly what's happening inside, but I'm sure these mercenary soldiers are loyal to their bosses as well, not just Putin.
Right.
Because Putin said all of those people that supported the mutiny, I will forgive. Those people within the Wagner group that decided not to join this mutiny, he is saying that we'll incorporate you into the Russian military and you'll actually get advantages. So we know that there's some that decided not to do it, but we also know that most of them did decide to do this mutiny along with their owner. So Putin doesn't really want those people to stop fighting in Ukraine. So he's willing to pardon this guy who he probably wants to kill with every fiber of his body.
God life is a messy scenario. I'm just thinking about it from Putin's perspective. Hiring a military that you don't really control, you kind of have to do it. Isn't that a really weird? Because it's just, I suppose, whenever you're in a war, you just need as many things that can maximize your advantage as possible.
Especially if
But
you're losing.
with mercenaries, you're really rolling the dice.
Yeah, I suppose so.
Because it's kind of just the whole argument of keep feeding a crocodile and one day it's going to come back and bite you.
Or in this case, a bear.
Yes.
And this will happen to anyone. If America becomes really weak,
Nice.
if America becomes extremely weak, then you will see their mercenaries start to exercise their authority too. But at the moment, they dare not say anything.
That's when the predator people come in.
Well, I wouldn't mind that bald black guy being president.
Anyways,
Or
wait.
Arnold Schwarzenegger should be president.
Yeah.
He was denied it because of his birth.
It's not
So,
fair.
yeah, finally he gets what he always wanted.
This is
The
kind of
only way he could top his life.
this is kind of embarrassing. But what's the latest with that old war?
which war?
The Russia one.
Yeah, I
What's
just
happening?
told you.
Yeah,
Look,
but
Yeah,
what's-
that's the latest.
It
That
depends.
is the latest.
It depends
but
who
like-
you
I mean,
ask.
so that happened. Oh, so there was a mutiny, huh? What else you got?
Yeah, exactly. What else you got? What else you got? Who's winning? Who's in the long run? Who's winning?
It depends who you ask.
Right.
Who are you asking?
You.
Oh, it's so okay.
Stalemate?
That doesn't. Well, that's so. If you ask the Western forces, Ukrainians are gaining ground every day, and it's only a matter of time before they reclaim all of their lost territory, right? If you ask the Ukrainians, they will essentially say the same thing, but they will say that we need more sanctions on Russia. We need more support. We'll be able to do it if everyone penalizes. They want to get rid of the SWIFT banking system for for Russia. Basically, they say that we can do this as long as you cripple the Russian economy even further, which the Western forces aren't willing to do. If you ask the Russians, it's only a matter of time before they take all of Ukraine.
Yeah. So what's the reality?
The reality is, based on, again, I don't know the reality, but based on certain intelligence reports that get publicized, that become declassified, it seems to be a stalemate at this point.
Yeah. That makes sense. That
But
does make
again,
sense.
I don't know.
But are the sanctions fucking Russia?
They
Nah,
are.
not as
They
much
are,
as
to
they
a certain
thought, though.
Well, the Ukraine war is fucking them more so.
Right.
The constant need to send more and more young working age
Yeah.
people to die. Dude, they've lost
Really?
tens of thousands of soldiers. And so have the Ukrainians. But according to some estimates, Russians have lost more people than the Ukrainians. But like I said,
Shit.
that's been consistent throughout
actually-
history. Even with wars they've won, they've
Yeah.
always lost
Oh, yeah,
more
yeah.
people.
It's actually crazy to think that's going on. I just shut off with the news. I'm just sort of like, let's see why urban planning is bad. I knew it was bad, but let's see why it's like how bad. You know, that's what I watched. Like I don't even watch the news. It's so bad.
Yeah, well, it's always just a thing of, do you really need to know it? I know Ali needs to know it.
But whenever I see the news, I'm like, that's very troubling. You know,
Well, that's the whole point of it, right?
I suppose that is the whole point of it.
It always needs something to be very troubling.
That's true
Uh,
by definition, right? To keep you interested.
yeah.
Yeah. But
You know what else?
Yeah.
Now that we were thinking about elite teams, Mislav and I did just watch Predator recently.
So good, dude.
Have
Oh,
you seen it?
Yeah, like when I was a kid.
it's so good. It's so good.
You know what I completely forgot about that film?
What?
Arnold Schwarzenegger is such a bad actor.
He's not that bad. I didn't think he was that
At
bad.
one moment, did you forget that he was Arnold Schwarzenegger?
No, but
Dude, have you heard James Cameron talk about how Arnold wanted to
That's his
do
characters.
the main role instead of Terminator?
what?
But
he
I
wanted
want
do-
to be the good guy.
He's like, I want to be the good. I will
What,
be
the
the
kid?
better. No, the kid's dad. in the
That'd be
first
so
one.
good if he was just like, I don't know if I can have this much burden as a 10-year-old puny boy.
What dad? There is no dad. What character?
No, I wanted to be John Connor.
You want to
That's
be
the
John
kid.
Connor?
Not in the
No.
first movie. He's a fully grown man.
Oh, that's right. He wanted to be him.
Yeah.
Oh, that would have been cool.
No, James Cameron was like,
He would have been the one that's like, this is fucking crazy. Like that kind of shit.
Imagine if those roles were reversed and then
This is-
that guy was sitting there being like, I don't know if I can take on this robot that is several weight divisions smaller
That's
than me.
amazing. And just been like, it's like, I just grew up in the rural America and this is a lot for such
I
a
am a
small town boy. No, but I have a defense of Arnie. Every role is the same character. Like they get him as the same. It's the same.
I know.
but that's not his
It's
fault.
great. I'm saying, but it's just amazing to me that the highest paid actor
It is crazy.
on earth
The same
can't
thing
act.
over and over. Yeah.
And that's his shtick.
No,
he can't act.
no,
That's
he
why
can
he's getting
act.
paid as an actor.
No,
to
he,
not act.
No, he can
Dude,
act.
even-
He can do one role.
That's not acting.
It is.
That is not acting.
that is
Why not?
that is playing yourself.
That's playing
Yeah,
yourself.
but he's not some fucking. He's not playing himself. He's not some like space killing. That's not what he
Yeah,
is.
but he should have been.
Yeah,
and
but
also,
like,
it's just so weird and inserted because another one that always plays himself, I suppose, is Joe Pesci. But it's because
Yeah,
Joe Pesci
exactly.
is being some little ruffian
it's the same
in the mafia.
But that's the same thing.
Arnold Schwarzenegger does not suit being an American elite spy,
I disagree.
an American elite core,
As if.
a dad, just a dad, being Danny DeVito's twin.
That one wasn't good. That one was crazy. That one was nuts.
That was insane.
That was insane.
And also, again,
That was his best movie.
again, his highest paid movie in his career where he can't act is the movie that makes the least amount of sense.
Look,
It's just like the more that man fails, the more he succeeds.
yeah. I mean, you kind
No, but he
Truly
also
incredible man.
I think it was
Same.
after Kindergarten Cop where they initially got like him because he was a cop, but then the audience loved that movie because there was such a weird contrast.
Yeah.
It was a
This
great film.
alien
That was
in,
a
like,
meta-
with children.
I love that
Then he
movie.
did like a string of comedy movies as well, and actually
Yeah.
did really well.
did.
Yeah,
well.
but none of them worked. It was only Kindergarten Cop that worked as a comedy, and then all the other comedic movies are the movies where he's not trying to be funny at all. I think when he's trying to be funny, it doesn't work. But the scenes where he's sitting there in front of another guy going, "What happened to you, Billy? I used to be able to trust you."
I don't know. There's obviously something wrong with me because I'm there just going like mesmerizing, just
I
mesmerizing.
mean, he is mesmerizing,
Yeah.
but not for a Daniel Day-Lewis reason.
I mean, look, put it this way. I think we're saying the same thing here. But if someone was like, "I have a different role for you," you're playing like a character in Schindler's List. Yes, he would be terrible. You
Yeah,
know
he
what I
could
mean?
play the god.
He would be
No, I
terrible.
was like, he'd be amazing in anything.
Well, he'd be playing him,
Anything.
but he'd be
You
playing
give him
himself.
Any role,
You know
it
why?
would be amazing.
But it'd be
Because he
playing
does
himself.
it with
Yeah.
absolute
Yeah.
conviction. Because even though he can't do it, but he doesn't know he can't do it, which is why he's able to do it.
I feel like he
Does
wasn't
that make
bad
sense?
though
Like-
in those 80s movies. I
Huh?
feel like it suits the movies.
It does.
But it's not bad.
It's built around him.
That's true.
All of his movies
Yeah.
exist because he exists. That's how much that man shapes reality.
It's so insane.
You have to give it to him. He is.
I love him. I love
You know
him.
how we're always just joking about it and saying, the most impressive man on earth is Leighton Hewitt or whatever as a gag. But I truly do think that Arnold Schwarzenegger is the most impressive man that's ever lived.
I mean, he's one of the most successful.
he'd have to be the most successful.
Tony Robbins, they're the same person, really.
They are the same person. They both got hilarious voices, huge giants.
Who's richer?
I'm going to say Tony Robbins. Tony Robbins owns like 72 businesses.
Whoa,
I
but
think he gets
come on,
revenue
come on.
of $5 billion a year.
Yeah, but business.
Arnie owns-
Come on, like one is sort of like Tony Robbins cream whip, like Tony Robbins marshmallow whip with 10% less fat than store-bought marshmallow whip, right?
Yeah.
Hey,
That's
don't
a
f-
business? What are you talking
don't
about?
forget-
How do you think that gets into
Business.
shelves?
Don't forget, Arnie owns Planet Hollywood,
Does
the
he?
restaurant.
Does he?
Yeah,
Well, they-
it wasn't
I
that.
think
It was,
they
like, it wasn't just
foreclosed.
him. Oh, damn. It was him, Sylvester Stallone, and one other
Fuck.
action star, Bruce Willis.
Oh, he owns a lot. I think he owns like a fleet of jets.
Who?
Schwarzenegger.
I would love to see who's richer. Maybe Tony Robbins is richer. I mean, he owns an island, doesn't he?
The slogan of the jets, "You'll be back."
Dude,
Really?
have you heard the story of Hummer? How he made Hummer into a selling brand?
Yeah, isn't that
So
amazing?
insane. So
Really?
Hummer, like they only did military
Oh,
car,
shit.
and then like he saw it one day. He's like, I want one of these. These are amazing. And so then they made him one. Like they made a custom one for him, and then he was driving it around. And everyone was like, "Can we want this? We want this." And so Hummer had to start making consumer cars because of Arnie. And then like as soon as
Just changes.
And you know
reality.
what's funny about that?
He is a wizard.
as Hummer like sales took over in the mid 2000s, at one point Arnie was like, I don't like this. This is not good for pollution. This is a gas guzzler, and killed Hummer. Hummer went back.
He just
You should be ashamed of yourself.
But Arnie, it was your idea. I don't remember it that way. Bringing lies to this conversation. You should be very ashamed. That's amazing. He's a fucking king. He's such a king.
Jordan, I want to
Nah,
bring up
nah.
something else. Next segment. It's a bit of a callback to the last one, but I think labor's in trouble, my friend.
Oh, well.
So, well, the housing bill, which we discussed last week, that got, stalled in the Senate. And then there was this Tanya Plibersik's plan for Green Wall Street, which is essentially creating a market for regeneration of plants and shit. So, like, companies that would need to pollute will also be able to buy other things from companies that will, the whole shtick. And that was something that actually had bipartisan support.
Yeah.
And the coalition had a version of that tabled in. The only difference, I think, was that the coalition wanted to give the authority to the farmers, and Labor said, yeah, the plan is great, but we want to take this authority from farmers and give it to environmental body.
Uh-huh.
And the coalition was okay with that, too. They were like, okay,
Really?
well, this is something that we can both agree on.
Yeah.
And then, like, when the housing bill got sold, all of a sudden, 180 switch.
Yeah.
The coalition doesn't like their own plan, by the way. This was their own plan.
Yeah.
Doesn't like their own plan again.
What?
And will say that we'll stall this. So it seems like
Right.
the knives are being sharpened against Labor. I think they want to. I think they've got a containment strategy here too.
Yeah, the Greens and the coalition have realised that they can do business.
Jesus.
So
And
what's
they are
going to
doing
happen
it
now? This
ruthlessly successfully.
This isn't good news for Labor. How does Labor get out of this mess?
It's not that it's a mess, because I don't think that the average person is going to switch their views on carbon credits. I just think that it's yet again another huge wasted opportunity at pure political expedience from the Greens and the coalition, because they've realised that they can wedge them on it. They've realised that there's going to be a small, tiny group of people that are going to be interested in it, which is their voting base, and it's at the expense of anything getting done, which is... I hate this argument that people always say that carbon credits are trash and they don't do anything. It's like everything. Everything can be managed well, and everything can be managed badly.
Yeah, totally.
And creating market... I hate this argument. They always bring this up, the Greens, that, market, free... They just... You know what they do? They hate the fact that they don't live in the Soviet Union. That's it. And I hate it too. I hate that we don't live in the Soviet Union. Mostly because all of the Greens would be in gulags, because they're all bourgeois class cunts. But the thing is...
Truth, spitting truths right here on the
Do they
Friendly
disagree with
Jordies
that?
from the Friendly
I've been
Jordies
reading some of the
podcast.
comments.
What?
What do you
A
mean?
lot of people claim that no, that's incorrect.
Yeah, well, I've
They're
got
not-
I've got the demo breakdown. You can go look it up yourself.
What are they
It
saying?
is absolutely true.
They're
are they
saying there's a
saying?
lot of poor people that support Greens as well.
Yeah, and then their argument every time is, I'm poor and I vote for the Greens. And my argument is, yeah, I'm sure you're poor, like Rick Morton from the Saturday paper claims he's poor. I think that you're making it up. And also, even if you aren't making it up, I get it. There's a lot of people that do get bamboozled by their crap marketing, but that is not their core voting bloc. You go look at who votes for them. It's obvious in the seats that they get. It's all inner city seats.
That's true.
So what's the plan of coalition?
And
Green?
also on top of that, when you even let's just take away the inner city seats, because there's poor people that live in the inner city seats. It's not the people that are voting for the Greens. We have the demographic breakdown of these people. They are from the top two economic quadrants. But
look, I tend, like, you know, in practice that's what it seems to me as well. But we've gone through this. So what's the strategy of Greens and coalition? Just to paralyze the government?
yeah, that's it. For political expedience.
Yeah.
Because then they can turn around in the next election and say nothing's getting done under Labor, and we've got the solution, and we can get things done. That's what they're doing.
Labor's got to court the Greens somehow. Then
They're not courting the Greens. The Greens have no interest in being courted. Their entire raison d'etre is to steal seats off the Labor Party. You can't reason with them. You can't bargain with them. That's not happening.
there's only one policy
It
for the
doesn't matter
Greens.
what the Labor... People need to understand this. It doesn't matter what the Labor Party announces. It is in the Greens' interest to say that it's shit, and then they come up with a bunch of conspiracy theories like they did in the AEST, like they did with housing. I've gone through the housing ones last week. You can go look it up. I've got more of their shit conspiracy theories that I'm going to come up with. It was exactly the same with the ETS. Please put all your... conspiracy theories about the ETS in the comments, because I'd love to fucking debunk all of those, because they're all crap. The Malaysia solution, they always pretend that they care about the refugees. They were the ones that absolutely made it impossible for there to be a humane solution to that, and they did it again because it is in their interest to say that whatever the Labor Party's doing is bad, and we've got the solution. And then you look at their solutions, and like it is with the rental crisis, it is just, constitutionally impossible, and they just seem to never mention that. Like it's always what they're selling is a lie. What that is their product. Their product is just shit, crap, bullshit fantasy marketing.
Yeah, but my question is, like, I get that's the game, but how do you play this game now if you're Labor?
I think that they've actually really done themselves in with the housing policy. I think that online there's going to be their rabid supporters that are going to be saying, never be able to reason with them. But I think that the general public, when they see that they are stalling housing for the truly needy, to sit there and say, oh, what about renters, and then have no actual solution for the renters, just say, what about the renters? People are going to see through that. I don't think that they can keep pulling this trick. They pulled it successfully with the ETS. The refugee one was a thing that was specifically aimed at their demographic. But I think that people have wizened up to the fact that, no, we do not have a price on carbon because of the Greens. And we will not have public housing built at any... Because Labor state governments are building them, but to the degree that we could have public housing, that is being stopped for no reason other than political expediency. None. It's honestly...
Yeah, it's getting clearer now. So
I think that that's going to happen. But with the carbon credit thing, people just need to understand this. You live in a Western mixed market economy.
Slow down,
You need to
Jack.
understand that.
Yeah.
Understand that. You do not live in a medieval kingdom where there is one man that gets to decide all government and just create a decree on the wire and just just sign their little signature on it and then it becomes the law of the land.
Hey, speak for yourself. You've taken enough acid, you'd believe anything.
fair enough.
Yeah, they live in the kingdom of the mind.
Yeah.
But the thing is that when it comes to the carbon credits, as always with all these things, they just pretend like this is the only solution that Labor has. It's the same with the HAF, the housing fund. They just pretend that that's the only solution. They conveniently forget the $9.5 billion that Albanese has released in the last year into public housing. That just, don't mention that. It's all just about this, market solution, which is good anyway. And they're doing exactly the same with the carbon credits. And the carbon credits has, again, been proven to work in governments that are actually handing them out properly. The EU is a good example of this. I'm sick to death of people saying that it's like, oh, it's not working as well as they said it would. Nothing... Let me tell you a little secret about governing. Nothing ever works as well as they think it does. You implement the policy and then if you have a good government in, you start loosening in the ends when it's in the real world. That's what happens.
Except for Mislav's Twitch enterprise, which is going exactly how we expected it.
Hey. Some people are on advanced levels of enterprising themselves, okay? And there's levels that you guys aren't aware of. There's some high business technology, theories and styles that are at play. And this is frankly something they should be implementing. I think Labor should, take a leaf out of my book if they, maybe...
Isn't Mislav dressed like a tech billionaire today as well?
Dude, why is everyone complaining about you in the comments saying, like, Mislav's given up on bathing? I think
Is that true?
No.
He looks clean to me.
I think that's just a running...
It's just like with Twitch, you forgot this word.
I think that's just a running joke. They think it's funny to say that on the internet. Huh? Well, I'm not laughing.
Anyways, Miss, we're gonna be overtime soon, so should we do your MisAdventure?
Yeah, before we do that, we'll do a pre-segment, which is, what was it called? Like Mrs. Trash Can Books or something?
Yeah, whatever, that's it now.
Well, this is the book from my fucking apartment. There you go.
Dude, that actually
cool.
looks like a good
This looks
book.
amazing.
Yeah.
You sure you don't want to read this?
I don't know, maybe.
The Origins and History of Consciousness.
I think it's more your speed.
All right, I'll read one sentence.
Yeah, read some out. So this is, if they don't know what this is a segment. I live in an apartment and there's this like public dwelling area, which is next to the lifts. And to be honest, they say it's to be like, if anyone else wants it, it's really because people can't be fucked to take their rubbish out to the bin. But like, instead of taking it to the bin, I recycle it because I give back. Okay? I care about recycling. So there's always a book there and I pick it up and bring it in. And this is it. What's it called? Yeah, it looks good. I assume it's a Christian propaganda book again.
2 important consequences follow from the relativity of these stages. Okay, well, we probably shouldn't start a book.
Yeah,
with
it's different.
what stages? And their occurrence at different periods in different cultures. Firstly, it proves the archetypal structure. The universality and necessity of their occurrence shows that there is a common psychic substructure which functions identically in all men.
Wow.
I changed my mind on this book.
Why? Is it Christian
It's
propaganda?
no, it's pseudo-spiritual psychobabble, which I like. I like it, but it's
useless. It's pulp.
that kind of stuff of, did you know that every culture has a religion?
Yeah.
Okay, there's probably some interesting points in that.
Yeah.
It proves that there's a psychic plane that we're all tapping into, and that's how the pyramids were built. True story.
Damn.
Any
Is
follow
it
up?
actually true?
Well, I expect a full report next week, Jordan.
Wait. What was your misadventure? I'm excited for that.
Yes. Don't be. You want to tell them what the misadventure was?
There was a lot. This was the most contentious misadventure of all time because it required Mislav doing the mildest amount of prep.
Yeah, mild in brackets major, but yeah.
He had to call a store.
No, well, that was one of the points. One of the process. One of the points of the process.
What were the other processes?
So here's what happened. First of all, I walked to this imaginary store Jordan told me about. It doesn't exist.
Really? It shut
Yes,
down?
It's gone. Long gone. It was like some like fucking
Damn, cost of living is hitting hard.
No, the funny thing is it was just a different business. It was just sort of like, like antiques. I'm like, he's lost the plot. So that.
Are you sure you went to the right store?
Yes. Permanently closed.
Oh, so you went there and then they said, Waj, 1996.
Yes, exactly.
You're going to buy some antiques, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And you did, didn't
Yeah,
you? You
yeah,
bought
yeah.
several credenzas.
Well, I was already there. And then Jordan got me onto this wacky website. What was it called? Hire a fucking
Guy.
or
.com.
something. Anyway, it's actually quite a funny story. I think it's pretty funny. So
I like it already.
unintentionally quite funny. Anyway, it's this website apparently where you can hire people like teachers. It's like Uber but for teachers, right? Okay. So any kind of I don't know, music, crafts or whatever. Anyway, so I eventually found pottery because he wanted me to make. You can tell him what they wanted me to make, but it was pottery, right? And there was like a lot of them, but some of them were so expensive. You know what I mean? There was like heaps of them, like all these like middle-aged art women that are like $70 an hour, $80 an hour. Anyway, I found some more affordable ones on the website, more affordable. Some students. I assume they were students. More like internationals, young Indian men. Cheap. In fact, so cheap they said,
What did they at the end say? Will you marry me?
"Teach Bob's and Vagine."
No, for PR.
So like, basically, there was a couple of like Indian students, and one of them even said first lesson free. And I said, look, I'll just pay you for one. I'll oversee that anyway. I paid. There was some, I don't know. They PayPal'd me. I paid $70, right?
Uh-huh.
I don't know, whatever that was. Just like, I think it was just you have to pay $70 to join the thing.
Oh.
I think. Anyway, so I messaged him. I was like, hey man, he wanted me to build. You can tell him, but he wanted me to try to make this thing out of clay. And
what did you want? What was the?
What was it?
I wanted you to make Michelangelo's David.
Yeah, actually, that was my idea. It was actually my idea.
Oh, that's right.
It was my idea.
But you said what? Michelangelo. That was it, because he said, all right, I'll make a pot. And I said, dude,
that's lame.
like Neolithic cavemen can make a pot.
Yeah.
It's the easiest. I'm pretty sure chimps have figured it out.
Yeah.
I want something more complicated. And then you said, what? Michelangelo's David. And I said, now you're talking.
Yeah, he said that. Anyway, so I'm in conversation with this guy. The money's paid. I'm like, it's locked in, I've paid the money.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm messaging
How
the
much
guy.
was it?
$70.
Oh shit.
Yeah. It's done. It's taken out. Anyway, I sent him a long message saying, this is what I'm going to do. I'm listening. He goes, yeah, it's all good. It's all paid for. I'm looking forward to the message. I wait a few days. It's taking a while. He comes back. I get a message saying, hey there. Happy to do it. Unfortunately, I live in India, so we'll have to do it over Zoom. To which I said, well, I actually didn't say it, but I was like, well, that money's gone, and I'll promptly be invoicing Jordan for it. But it's completely fucking useless. So
How is that my fault?
I was trying to save you money.
Yeah, all right, but like I didn't make that man live in India, and you probably should have checked.
There was no.
You did.
It didn't say.
You actually did with your stupid immigration views.
Listen, it didn't say he was in India. It's a terrible website. Anyway, so you can feel good that you're donating to, I assume, a pretty poor man in India. But anyway, so that was a fail, and I'm like, I'm not gonna fucking pay. $100 and something for some lady, because I know what'll happen. It was like some Balmain mum, and I'd be like, I want to make Michelangelo, and she'd be like, very
Make
funny.
a pot.
Yeah, no, she'd be like, very funny. What do you actually want to do? And I'll just like get PTSD from high school and be like, oh yeah, and I'll make a little mug, you know? So I took matters in my own hands and found a place that sells clay by the bulk for $20 a slab, which I bought today.
Yeah.
And all I'll say is it's called air drying.
Yes.
And it is.
You said that was some magic juju that doesn't exist.
No.
So at least you learned something.
No, I didn't learn. Quite the contrary. I asked him, you know, if it's air drying. It is air drying. 2 to 3 days.
Okay.
2 to 3 days before you start to get the
The
effects.
maths isn't adding up on this MisAdventure.
And
What do you mean?
And you start 10 minutes before the pod?
Yeah, when do you start?
This afternoon. So in there is a true piece of work, and I've also brought the rest of the clay because I'm sure you'll have some fun with it.
All right, show
So,
us.
ladies and gentlemen, introducing the world's greatest replica.
Michelangelo.
Of
Yeah, Miss loves David.
Yeah, Miss loves David. It'll be wet.
Dude, he doesn't have feet.
And he's got a big
How
cock.
did this take you a whole afternoon?
It was wet. It's hard to do.
It doesn't even have a face.
He's got eyes. The penis is there.
I'll let you be the judge of that. See, this is what I keep saying, dude. Stick to the Warhammer.
Oh, the other one, yeah.
It's an abomination. It's an abomination.
Yeah, you think the picture is blurry? No, it's the actual face.
No feet, no face, but he's got a cock. The only thing that Michelangelo doesn't have, isn't it?
Yeah,
does
yeah.
have a
His
cock.
cock is
I thought he had a
his
leaf
cock is
over it, doesn't he?
tiny.
No, he doesn't
He
have
has
a
a
cock.
cock. All right, yeah.
You're confusing the Simpsons with
But that was like an
reality.
actual size replica cock of Michelangelo.
Listen, it was my best effort. I tell you, that shit is hard to use. It's all wet. It's not easy. But look, I tried.
Why is he raising his hand to wave?
Because that's what he does. He's got a little. He's going. Ooh.
So you based it off the
Yes.
man.
I
It's a
tried.
gingerbread man.
But you can't eat it.
It is a fucking gingerbread man. It is. And we paid an Indian $70 for nothing. For nothing. He undersold me. He ripped me off. He said, first lesson free. I was like, can't fail. I'm in India.
This is simultaneously the least and most successful MisAdventure of all time.
Maybe I'll try to follow up on that free Zoom. I'll see.
Yeah,
I'll try.
Make something else.
Yeah. I'll just text him and be like, listen, give me
Try
a...
and make the pot this time.
Yeah, all right. I'll try. In fact, I'll take the rest of that back and I'll see what I can do.
Das clay. Oh, you better make sure that it's actually... Cause
It's hermetically sealed. Yeah, it's pretty wet though, I'm telling you. It's like a wet thing, you know? Do you want to take some for yourself? You'll have fun with it. Take some.
No.
Really?
This is all you, buddy.
So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. That's what happens
He's
when you get
falling apart.
Well, it takes 3 days. That's what happens when you get an ill-conceived idea with ill-conceived abilities and ill-conceived sort of, ingredients, I guess.
Oh man, I'm happy with it.
I hope you.
I'm
are you gonna keep
impressed
it?
too.
Are you gonna keep it? Okay, good. That's the that can be like it's really scary.
We've got to have a little Mislav's art shelf.
Yeah. You know what it looks like?
and put on under it all of it, like Mislav age 33.
You know what it's
So when
fuck, it's
when
actually
the future
terrifying.
civilizations find this, they go like, "Oh my god, they're all retarded."
Who was Mislav?
Who was Mislav?
and did he have-
And he was, and we can tell that these people were caring because people cared for him. He could
All right,
not
what
have
about
survived
instead?
by himself.
I could probably shape it.
Miss,
better
what
than
about this instead?
that. Yeah.
You get that lesson, and you tell him that you're going to do a portrait of him.
I mean, out of clay, a portrait out of clay.
Could be out of clay, or it could be.
He's a clay
Just
guy.
painting. He's a clay guy.
He's
That's all
a
he does.
clay. He just does.
All right, what
clay.
about self-portrait?
I don't
Make a
think,
little bust of yourself.
I think you're overlooking my clay building abilities. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but you know you more than anyone. It'd be
Nevertheless.
great to see a little interpretation of how you see yourself.
I mean,
I'm sure it'll be crying.
again, like it's the same issue. He has a face. It's the face that's the problem. The detail.
But
I'll
it
do
would
a
be
lesson.
interesting to see if the lesson was worth it, if you've really improved your skills.
I can try it. Look, I can. I'm molding him better now. He's got little feet. I'll
No, Mislav, the experiment's over.
not for me. Not for me.
This is like MasterChef. The time has passed.
Yes.
Look, I'll message the guy. I'll message the
The
guy.
fat
and-
Greek guy is not happy.
Yeah, I'll message the guy and if he
What does chat think about Mislav's David?
yeah, I'll message the
they're
guy.
talking
and,
about the tiny peen.
Yeah, it's not. Well, he's got a tiny peen.
They're
that's
saying
for sure.
Mislav make a chess set out of clay.
No, bust.
That's very silly.
Bust or bust.
What's a bust?
It's this much.
Bust or
It's
bust?
the terrible thing that I did for 2 for a birthday once and you laughed at me for.
Hey, it's all.
I wish I could take that in,
Some
but I think she threw it out.
No!
I don't know.
Oh, if she has it, bring it in, please. Because
senior Google says take it to Vatican now.
Hell yeah. The Pope would be like, I haven't seen.
They're saying
I'm seeing 2 Michelangelos.
at least the penis is there. That's the comment as well.
Yeah, it's so bad.
Should have made peen into one of those dragons that dip below the table.
Huh? Oh yeah, a big one. You know what it looks like?
Oh, and how's this for a misadventure? I was thinking about this. Guys, if anyone lives in Sydney and you're part of a D&D group,
What's
Mislav's
that?
coming in hot.
Or magic.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'll do that. I'll do that.
And what are you going to be? What's your magic creature? Elf, orc,
middle-aged man.
wizard it is.
There you go. You're now a Middle Eastern man.
Yeah, that's what you are, a
No,
Muslim.
I would definitely do that if there's one of those weird nerd whatever. I don't know what they are, but yeah, I'll go. I'll do it.
And we'll even get the sound effect to introduce it. And we played Dungeons and Dragons for 3 hours. And it was slain by an elf.
Look, we're running out of time. Should we do one last segment?
You're
or-
welcome for the best segment you'll ever see in your life. Any podcast. Forget this podcast.
I was happy with it.
You're all very welcome, and up your Patreon. That's all I got to say. Shame you haven't.
It's
already.
a little sub series.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, I thought,
Yeah.
I thought you were gonna say
Misunderstood
sub
art.
and dome thing.
Yeah.
Sub and Dom. Well, that's an option too.
All right.
I'm so happy with that, Miss. Thank you.
That's all right. I mean, I tried my best.
Well, then we may as well call it because we are running
That's
over
off
time.
that.
Join
That's
up.
way better than Wagner.
Dude,
Join
you want to talk about
Wagner doesn't create. It just
Exactly.
tears down.
Exactly. And we're about positivity and create.
If only more people were like Mislav.
Yeah, exactly.
All right,
World
well,
would
I hope
clearly
you
be a lot
guys
more functional.
enjoyed today's podcast. There was a few segments that we might get onto on the upload, including,
Yeah. Oh,
for
shit.
example, ABC and Insiders doing really
Hey,
well compared to all the others.
Should we see each other out by eating some chili? I think we should. Hold your hand
Or
out.
wait until next time. What do you reckon?
What do you say?
Is it like extreme chili?
It's not that. Yeah, let's wait.
I think that what we should do is do a
Game.
chili segment where next week we all have to bring in something
Yeah.
and we have to have a teaspoon of that chili and go on to explain it. I'd really like
That's
to
a
see
good idea.
Miss, Ali saying like, see, the thing is with
Yeah, we'll do that.
the Kashmir border is it's spicy but not
Yeah.
this spicy.
Yeah. That's one of my favorite things, seeing Ali struggle with chili.
Yeah,
It's like-
that's the best.
It's like the it's
The best things of this podcast are Ali doing impressions, which I've got to say, huge improvement on the Schwarzenegger. Like
Give me-
Mislav with the art, he's getting better.
Yeah.
And also Ali feeling very sorry for himself eating disgusting things.
Well, if you
No,
want
not
to,
until you're breaking it.
if you want to see some of that, make sure you join
Don't do that.
us next week or on the up late. We'll see you guys.
Summer's coming now and I don't know nothing. Hair is growing out, but you're down now. Outside to try.